All right, we are now recording to my cloud. Good to see everybody. Hopefully a few more people show up, but if not, that's okay. Today we are going to talk about and recap. Um, I cheated again. I needed some good content, so I went to James and Keith's podcast and I ripped off another one of their episodes as far as content, but it was a really good one. It was an interview with a guy by the name of Daryl Davis. And you might not know his name, but you should know his name. And I would definitely recommend that you go and watch the podcast episode because Daryl Davis is this loud, very New Yorker. Uh, and when he talks in, well, let me back up a step. Loud New Yorker, but also kind of one of the real estate icons in the industry, as far as I'm concerned. So he's been in the industry for about 35 years. He started in real estate when he was 19 years old. He's written 3 books. He runs a very successful real estate coaching business. He's well respected. His opinions are well respected. His teaching is well respected. And he's a lot of fun to listen to. Like he sounds like, I don't want to get myself in trouble, but he sounds like a mobster when he talks. So it is really, really good fun. Did you get in?
No, including the outage.
Like off of the network or just out of Zoom? Still fighting Karen's technical issues. So if she can't get in, she'll be able to hear me because she's sitting right here. But at any rate, they interviewed Daryl, and the topic of the interview is supposed to be how to switch your business over and focus more on and have success more in getting listings. But it spent very, very little time there, and really covered a lot of other things. So we're going to talk about it. I kind of went into it with a closed mind thinking, well, here's this guy and he is well, volume issues. He is this world-renowned
real
coach.
estate coach.
So we're still fighting the volume issues. So we're gonna get all of these, like real estate tidbits and coaching tips and all the things that you hear from, all of the real estate czars from around the country, and they all say the same thing, and they all have a prescriptive program. And it's like, if you want to be successful, you need to follow this program. And if you don't follow this program, you're not going to be successful. And I kind of thought that's what it would be. And then I thought, well, that's okay, because I'll just pull out the parts that I like and bring them to you guys. And it was quite the opposite. So, I'm going to kind of recap what I thought was important for you and really, really valuable for all of us. But again, if you're not subscribed to that podcast, if you don't watch that podcast, I would really, really encourage you to subscribe, number one, because these guys deserve a lot of subscriptions. But if you don't subscribe, go watch this one in particular. So with that, let me dig up my notes and we'll break it down. So the first kind of question they asked him is like, if you were going to give advice to a real estate agent on day one of their real estate career, and if you were trying to give them something that would be truly impactful for them that they could use over and over again, what would it be? And he's got a slogan that he repeats over and over again, or a catchphrase that he repeats over and over again, and that is, motion impacts emotion. Motion impacts emotion, for everyone, for the agent, for the agent's clients, for the people that are surrounding the agent, for the business. So what he means by that is, when in doubt, get moving. Get moving on something, right? Get moving on something productive. And I'm going to frame all of this by saying that any of the suggestions that he makes there that we're going to talk about for the next little bit, he's talking about applying what he says towards something constructive and productive in real estate. So, motion impacts emotion doesn't mean, run down to the movie theater, grab some popcorn, and sit in front of a screen. It means attack something that's impactful for a real estate business. The second thing he said that really hits home with me, because this is one that I struggle with, is he says an agent's got to realize that we basically have to start over every single day. We're only as good as our last closing, and we have to start over every single day. We have to do the things that matter every day over and over and over again. He asked a question. He said, what would happen if you talked to one buyer and one seller, only one buyer and one seller every day, 5 days a week? Well, at the end of the week, that would be 10 conversations. If you work 6 days a week, like some of us, that would be 12 conversations. At the end of the month, that's 48 conversations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you keep that up, if you keep that pace up, you're most certainly to get a deal or two or three out of that within 90 days, 120 days. But most of us don't do that. We don't do it every single day. We don't start over and do the same, let's say, 4 things that we've decided are critical to our business every single day without exception. I'm horrible at it. We're just talking about it at lunch. I do all of these things, but I don't do them all the time. And I often pay the price for that, because let's pick on one. My power hour trying to call on potential listers. I might do really, really well at that for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll get distracted and be doing other things, or other things will, kind of take my attention away, and I might not get back to it for 10 days after. And so I'm constantly starting over, but I'm starting over in the exact opposite direction that he's suggesting we start over. So you wake up every single day, you go to work every single day, and you're doing the same things over and over again. And that was the single biggest piece of advice that he would give to a real estate agent that started out today. I don't know how much real estate this guy has sold in his career, but it's a lot. I mean, a lot. And I'm talking about thousands of units, not hundreds, thousands of units. This guy is a monster. The biggest thing that I took from this, and I'll go back. Remember I said, I feel like this is going to be this real estate coach, and he's going to say, here's the program, right? Here's the program. And if you follow the program, you'll be great. And if you don't, then you won't. Those are your 2 choices. Follow the program or not. Almost every real estate or sales in general coach, guru, instructor that I've ever listened to has that. They have the program. And if you follow the program, you'll be all right. He was completely the opposite. He said, there is no program. Everybody's different. Everybody will want to do different things. Everyone will be good at different things, and that's okay. There is no program. The key is to pick the path that you enjoy following, pick the tasks and the productive things that you enjoy performing, so that you don't feel like you're working. All right, what's that old saying? If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, something like that. It's that kind of vibe. So let's use an example. Let's say that I really like, or I'm really good at, I really enjoy, and it doesn't tax me a whole bunch to call expired listings. It doesn't tax me a whole bunch to, and this does, but I can't find an example. It doesn't tax me a whole bunch to post on social media, which for me is painful. And it doesn't tax me a whole lot to go out and knock on 10 doors a week. Okay. The key is consistency. he would advise me to do those three things that I'm really, really good at, or that don't tax me a whole lot, and to do them consistently over and over and over and over again. Now, does that mean that that's all I'm doing? I don't do anything else? No, that's not what it means. Because, in this business or any business, you can have a program, you can have a plan, and then things can come up that you have to address. Emergencies can come up that you have to address. Clients will come up and want showings or listings or whatever that you have to address. The paperwork practice part of it, you'll have to address. You still have to do all that, but your focus points, your start over again, day after day after day. We're talking about two or three things that you're really good at and really don't tax you. That's kind of your wheelhouse. That's your lifeblood of your business. And the key, again, is consistency. Over and over and over again with no breaks. No periods in between where you're like, yeah, I know I was doing really well at that for a long time, but I had to do some other things, but I'm going to circle back around to it and get to it. Consistency. That's what he preaches in his books. That's what he preaches in his coaching sessions, seminars. If you want to sign up for this guy to coach you, it's something like $600 a month, and he's got something like 2,500 students. Okay, so he's doing all right. And I know what everybody says. Well, I want to be a consultant. I want to be a coach. Well, listen, you can't be a consultant or a coach for a very long time unless your students are winning. Okay. You can't coach a football team for a very long time unless your team is winning. So whatever he's suggesting that his students do is working. Otherwise, he wouldn't have a book like this. He wouldn't have a book of students like that. Right. So very, very different than all the stuff I've ever heard. I want you guys to spend a little bit of time thinking about that. Like, what are maybe the 2 or 3 things that I should be doing in my business as my every single day start over tasks and never take a break? Never take a break. And that I can commit to doing consistently. Now, guys, here is why I love our CRM. Okay? Because you can take digital marketing to your sphere and just draw a line through it. Like, yep, I'm consistent. I do it all the time. I never take a break. I've got that nailed. So that's like one thing that's really, really important, probably the most important thing that you can do, and scratch that off the list. Just get rid of it. Okay. I don't have any data, but I would say that based on where I've been, what I've seen, who I've worked with, all the stuff over all the years, you're already better. If you do that, you're already better than 80% of the agents in, I'll say, Northern California. I don't know what everybody does in Southern California. I don't know what everybody does in Nevada. I don't know. Brendan and I have been talking. We're pretty sure we know what everybody does in Canada, but we don't know what anybody does in Oregon. But when you talk about our primary markets and the place where you're competing for business, if you have your CRM set up the way that I've outlined, and you have all these documents in that shared folder, if you spend the time and do that, you're ahead of 80% of the agents in Northern California. You're already doing a better job. We can scratch that one off the list. Okay, so what's next? For me, in doing in pursuing what I'm trying to pursue and trying to pursue my goals and increase my business, I've got to consistently post on social media and especially Google, spoiler alert, every day. Right? I got to do it every day. I'm not going to do it on Sunday. I'm just not. Okay. Even when football's over, I'm still not going to do it on Sunday, but I'm going to do it 6 days a week, every day. And if I can't find content, or if I can't come up with content, or I don't know what to post, I'm going hunting and I'm going to steal something. I've stole twice this week and it's been great. Who saw the buffalo? Everybody see the buffalo? I didn't do that. I didn't do that at all. National Geographic did that. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Right? Who saw the stats for buyers, the little buyer stat post thing? Anybody see that? I didn't do that. Ryan Lundquist did that. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. So it's important for me to be out there, and it's important for me to deliver a particular kind of message in those things to achieve my goals. That's one thing I've got to do every day. The third thing, I haven't come up with quite yet, but I'm going to spend some time thinking about it. And I want you guys to do the same thing. I want you to focus on consistency. But one of the things has got to be the CRM, because it puts you so far ahead of every other agent in the area, and it doesn't require anything but upfront labor and a little bit of maintenance now and then. And if you haven't done that yet, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you really don't want it. They had a roundtable discussion about the qualities of a top performing agent. Okay. What are the qualities of a top performing agent? If you had to list them, what would they be? What would you describe them as? Different than what you might think. Number one, everybody agreed. They have to enjoy people, generally, right? Generally, not without exception, but generally speaking, they have to enjoy people, okay? Number two, and absolutely non-negotiable, they have to be a self-starter, okay? If you're not a self-starter, if you require somebody to kind of get you going or check on how you're doing, you know, or push you down the path or keep you between the lines, you're probably not going to make it very far. Okay. You're probably not going to make it very far. You guys should all be feeling pretty good because you have these qualities. Otherwise, you wouldn't be working here, right? Like, you just wouldn't. You have these qualities. So you're doing good. This one was a little bit different. The best agents in the world are passionate about making a difference. Passionate about making a difference. And I think that's because when you feel passionate about making a difference, you're coming to this thing with the heart of a servant, and you don't really feel the impact of the work as much as someone who does not have that same passion, right? It's a hard job. It's long hours. The hours are unpredictable. You can't really schedule time to do things that you might want to do. You're kind of at the whim, you know, the beck and call of your clients. That can all get pretty taxing. If you have a passion about doing something for other people that makes a difference in their lives, it's probably not as taxing. Okay. Probably not as taxing. You got to be willing to learn, right? Nothing has highlighted that more than the practice change and the class action lawsuit situation that we've been dealing with for almost 2 years now. Okay. That completely flipped our industry upside down and sideways with regard to how we list properties and how we process sales, not process sales, but process compensation. It requires a different skill set to be able to execute paperwork that we haven't had to execute in the past. It requires a different skill set to be able to have conversations and talk to people about what's going on. Those people that haven't been able to learn or willing to learn, or those people that are kind of like, well, I've always done it this way and I'm always going to do it this way. I mean, they're screwed. They're absolutely screwed. It won't be long before they're gone, if they're not gone already. And there's some stat floating around out there that, like, last year, 8 out of 10 real estate agents quit the business. I'm not 100% sure that's accurate. That sounds like a huge number to me, but I know there was a good amount. And a lot of that, I talked to a couple of people in my, my recruiting calls and my get to know you calls. I talked to a couple of people that said, I'm not doing it. I'm quitting. I'm doing something else, or I'm retiring. But though there was a few that weren't at retirement age that were like, I'm just not doing it. I'm going to do something else. I don't want to do it. Okay. Lack of willing to learn. What about technology and the pace that technology runs at versus the pace that our natural learning curve runs at? Technology outpaces us a ton. If you want to stay relevant, if you want to stay productive, if you want to maintain business, you've got to be willing to learn and adapt to whatever technology brings to the table. Okay. So this willingness to learn and this willingness to shift is a huge part of what makes an agent a top tier agent. I can be really guilty of resisting change, resisting improvement, resisting shift. And fortunately, the practice change kind of snapped me out of it and woke me up. But I've got some work to do on that too. Resilience. You have to be incredibly resilient in this business. And James said it best. Okay. He said, the best agents I know absolutely don't give a shit. Right? You can't hurt them. And what they're talking about is the fact that in our business, you have to spend 90% of your time getting told no, or get out of here, or something negative. 90% of the time when we ask the question, which is, can I have your business in one form or another? The answer is no. Only 10% of the time, on a good day, is the answer yes. So you have to go through somewhere between 10 and 100, depending on how the day or how the week's going, 10 and 100 no's to get to a yeah, okay, maybe. Right? Can you imagine what would happen if you took all of that on personal? Could you imagine what would happen if that was just an ego crunch to you? Can you imagine somebody trying to operate in this business that couldn't handle that or didn't have the stomach for that? Like, it's hard to believe. I know you're like, well, no, I mean, no realtor would ever be that way, but they're out there. They're absolutely out there. Okay. And it's really hard. So every time I get up for power hour and I'm like, okay, I'm dialing for appointments, they said 90%. I'm here to tell you it's not 90%, it's 1%. Or excuse me, it's not 10%, it's 1%. I know that to get to a yes, to get someone to say, I'll qualify it. Sometimes I don't like the person, so I don't want to sit down with them. Okay. But to get one person to agree to sit down with me, I'm making 100 phone calls. And 99 of them are either going to send me straight to voicemail, tell me no nicely, or tell me no, not nicely at all. And I get a lot of that. Real estate agents are a pain in the butt. Like, they're horrible people, right? So they love to tell me exactly why they're telling me no and why I'm wrong for calling them. Like, they love to do that. And unfortunately, in my position, I can't say, well, that's nice, eat shit, and hang up. I got to listen to it, right? I got to listen to it because every once in a while, after I listen to all your crap, I can swing you. Okay. But so I got to listen to it. If I took any of that personal, I mean, Forest Hill Bridge ain't high enough. Okay. I'm telling you, it ain't high enough. Look at Caron going, I can't believe you said that, Damien. I can't believe you said that. So, it's, if you talk to anybody, spoiler alert, not for a while, but spoiler alert. If you talk to anybody about, hey, like I'm thinking about being a real estate agent or, whatever, and they're talking to you and they're like, tell me what it's like, I would tell them that. Like, if you can't handle 100 FUs to one, I love you, don't. Don't do this. Go do something else because it's never going to change. It never has changed. It never will change. That's the way it's always going to be forever and ever and ever. And all you guys are like, yeah, whatever, I know. And that's great. That's one of the reasons you're here because you pass all the filters, right? But think about that. Think about how resilient you are. Think about how resilient you've been in the worst year in real estate in 30 years. Did you guys know that? Did you see that stat come out? NPR put it out. So we know it's true. It's not swung by like, some real estate recruiter. It's not swung by Zillow. It's not swung by anybody that tries to put their own little spin on the market. It's straight news. The number of units that were sold nationally in 2024 is the lowest number of units in 30 years. That's longer than I've been selling real estate. Longer than I've been selling real estate. 48 hours before that came out, I was talking to somebody and they said, how's it going? I said, man, it sucks. Like, I've never worked this hard in my life. And I'm starting to think maybe just here's the fault of resilience, right? Here's the fault of resilience. So I'm starting to think maybe I just don't have the chops for it anymore. Like maybe the market is passing me up. Like I've never worked this hard. I don't ever recall it being this hard. And guys, you got to remember, I was here in the late 90s when it was really, really hard. I was here in the late-ish 2000s when it was really, really hard. And it wasn't as hard as it was last year. It wasn't as hard. And they're like, shut up. Quit being a baby. You'll be all right. And then that stat came out and I thought, holy crap, it really is. It really is that bad. It really was that bad. Okay. But the fact that you're all still here and the fact that you're all still grinding and the fact that you're all still putting out content and trying to do a good job and promote yourself and being positive, that's a resilient group of folks. That's a resilient group of folks. Because somewhere between 30 and 70% of the people in your position said, nope, can't do it. Just can't do it. Okay. Back to consistency. This was the last thing that they talked about that makes an exceptional agent. Consistency. And Keith Robinson gave the best example. He said over his career, he's hired thousands of real estate agents, and that's true. He was a killer at a brokerage, not to be named. If you do your research, you'll figure it out. And he was a recruiter. Okay. So he had literally hired thousands of real estate agents in his career. And he said, I've hired all kinds of people. All kinds of people. I hired in one small town, I hired the neighbor's son. Okay. Mayor's son. I hired the mayor's son. Multiple generations in this small community, right? My dad's the mayor. I'm probably going to be the mayor someday. My grandpa was the mayor, whatever, like the family in this small community. I've hired a guy like that. He didn't sell anything. He sold nothing. I hired a guy in a, 25-year-old Honda Accord with mismatched tires and a Bondo spot in the door. And that guy would go out and be Masters Club first year out. And I've hired everything in between. And the only difference between those people, look, I got the light on me. Oh, the only difference in those people was consistency. All right. The guy in the Honda was consistent. He grinded. He did the consistent thing that we've talked about earlier. He did all those things on a regular basis and he was successful. absolutely successful. The mayor's kid was probably too busy playing golf or, giving hay rides or doing whatever he had to do. He didn't do anything consistently. He didn't sell any units. To be a top tier real estate agent, you've got to be consistent. Back to what we talked about earlier. So between these three geniuses of real estate, what we got for the qualities of a top tier agent are they enjoy people, generally speaking, they're self-starters, they're passionate about making a difference, they have a willingness to learn, they're extremely resilient. In James's words, they don't give a shit. I love that. And they're consistent. The good news is that you guys, everybody here and just about everybody in the office, I think nails all of those qualities. So now you just got to put it into practice. Then we talked about how to switch from being a buyer's agent to a listing agent. Okay, we talk about this a lot. How do we switch from being a buyer's agent to a listing agent? Most of it is a mindset, right? And you need to wrap your arms around the fact that a listing agent's job is not to sell a property. A listing agent's job is to properly market a property. Okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to NAR's website over the next couple of days, and on NAR's website, I'll try and find it and send you a link, but they have, I think they're called reports of buyer and seller profiles. And within those reports, it's basically a survey of, I don't know how many 100,000 buyers and sellers that they ask them a series of questions about, like, what do you want? What do you want? And then from that data, they made a profile of a buyer and a profile of a seller and their top wants, again, generally speaking. So everybody's different, but for these profiles, the same things came up over and over again, and those were the things that made it to the quote-unquote profile. Sellers want to hire a real estate professional at the end of the day that will properly market their home. Okay? The biggest complaint from sellers is when I hire a real estate agent, they do a half you-know-what job of marketing my property. I could have done it better myself, right? Now, it's particularly challenging these days because there's so much tech and media involved in the sale of real estate, and the consumer is also pretty savvy with this stuff. So we can't wow them anymore with like technical jargon. They know what we're talking about. Right? You're not paid to sell the house, you're paid to market the house properly. Once you start listing property on a consistent basis, this gets easier. But when you do list property, or when you're talking about listing property to a seller, what you're talking about is having a very high minimum standard of marketing. And we've talked about this before in that video that I made, how Damien sells a house or something like that, right? I don't care if it's a $200,000 mobile in a park or a $2 million house in Winchester. You will not be able to tell the difference in the marketing or the effort. It doesn't matter what the property is. The marketing and the effort will all be the same. The schedule will be the same. The pre-list stuff will be the same. The photos will be the same. The video will be the same. The Matterport will be the same. The aerial will be the same. But Damien, your last listing didn't have aerial. I know it was right next to McClellan and we couldn't fly the drone. Okay. There's always things that can knock it off, but it will always be the same. It will have the same. It will have me there if I'm in town. It will have me there on the opening weekend on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. It will have me there. There might be other people with me, but I will be there. Okay. Unless there's two of them, then I might not be there. But generally speaking, it will have me there. Yes. When the big one sells, I'm going to pay for all that effort. When the little one sells, I might barely break even. Really. Okay. So somebody tell me why, unless there's a really good reason, and there are some exceptions, but why will Damien never deviate from that standard? Why? Somebody tell me why. Why not get the crappy little double wide, just take some stills, put it on the internet, see what happens? Why not? Somebody tell me why.
Just gonna end up in more work.
Come again?
You're gonna end up with more work anyway. It's gonna cost your time to do it not the right way.
So if I don't do it the right way, it costs time and it creates more work. Yeah, but that's not the reason.
Integrity.
I'd like to think so, but that's not the reason. Nobody? Okay, somebody answer this for me. Except Brendan. You don't get to answer. The way that we syndicate listings through our national syndication system at NextHome, Zillow, Realtor.com, the MLS, social media. Whenever you list a property, how many people see it?
Million.
Caron says 1 million. Any other guesses? Average. Millions. Caron says millions. How many people? Any other guesses? Average. We kind of played around with this and tried to figure it out. Again, every listing is different. Some listings get more views than others. I get that, but kind of as a kind of guarantee. First weekend, Thursday through Sunday, how many people have eyes on the listing with the way that we do it? That's probably in the neighborhood of 300,000. Okay, 300,000. So when you take pictures with your iPhone and you skip on the video and you skip on the Matterport because it's just a doggy little listing that's not going to bring much money and blah, 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 blah. What you're really doing is telling 300,000 people, this is how I do my job. If you want me to list your house, this is what you're going to get. Okay. On the other hand, if you go way, way, way overboard and you do everything on a listing that's list price $379,000, you're going to tell 300,000 people, I don't care if your listing is less than 400 grand, you get all of it when you hire me. You get it all. And oh, by the way, I pay for it. You don't. Okay. Imagine yourself as a listing agent as not just a knowledge base, right? Because that's our instinct when we want to promote ourselves as a listing agent. We're a knowledge base. We're really, really wise and savvy, and we understand this market, and we've got experience, and we're going to get you a good result. Yes, that has to be incorporated, but according to the survey, equally, if not more important, is I really know how to market your property well and get it distributed, right? There's lots of smart people, but nobody markets like me. Nobody markets like me. How many of you have ever read my bio when it comes to listings? How many of you ever read it? What's the second sentence say? Anybody know? I'll give you a hint. Damien's proven marketing strategy yields sellers an above average result. Something like that. I don't know what it says. It says something like that. Okay. Shift your presentation, shift your conversations into that versus what everybody else is talking about, which is, I understand the market. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. I understand how to do this. I understand. Everybody says that, guys. Everybody says that. Okay. This was the best one. What was the guru's advice for the fatigued agent? And by fatigued agent, I mean the agent that got their ass kicked in 2024. Right? We're tired. We're discouraged. We're frustrated. Okay. We all worked really, really hard and didn't have the result that we wanted. Some of us may have financial pressure that we didn't anticipate because we weren't expecting to take such an income hit. We are fatigued. What was his advice? He had to, when you watch it, you'll see it stumped him for a minute. He went, whoa, hmm. He went back to motion affects emotion. Get moving. Remind yourself what you're committed to and why you're in business and why and how your business affects that. Know your whys. Know your whys for you. Know your whys for your clients. Know your whys for your family. Remind yourself what you're doing it for. Remind yourself how valuable your commitment to all of that is. And get moving. Work your process. Work your start over every day. Feel like you're generating traction. Be able to look back at the end of a day, end of a week, whatever, and say, yes, I did A, B, C, and D consistently, and know that that's going to pay dividends and pay results. Have a commitment that's greater than your fear. I thought that was great. Have a commitment that's greater than your fear. Okay. They asked him, what are your takes on the settlement and the practice change? He landed in the same place I did. All in on the settlement. Love the settlement, love the practice change. Thinks it's a great thing for the industry. It's especially positive for listings. And he put it this way that I hadn't really, I mean, I think I thought about it, but I never really verbalized it. If you approach listings the way that we've talked about approaching listings, which is, look, here, this is what I charge for the listing side. You're probably going to get a request for compensation somewhere else, but we'll deal with that when we get to the offer. I charge 3. Okay. If you frame that the right way and you use commission tactics the right way, it actually makes it easier for you to close listing business than it was before. Okay. In some markets, in many markets, remember, he coaches nationwide. And I'm not quite sure I've got the guts for this one yet, but I might try it soon. He's actually seeing listing commissions increase to 3.5% and 4%. because the conversation has shifted to, well, yeah, you used to have to pay 5, but now you're going to get all my expertise and all my power for 3.5. You're probably going to get a request in a purchase offer, but we'll deal with that when it comes. And agents are actually charging a premium and getting it. And that's not, to answer your next question, that's not illegal or unethical. Because you're saying this is what I charge and this is why. Like I said, I haven't tried that one yet, and I don't know if I'm brave enough to try that one. I got to get out of the light. I don't know if I'm brave enough to try that one quite yet. But at some point in 2025, I'm making a promise to myself and a commitment to you guys. At some point in 2025, I'm going to go into a listing appointment and tell them I charge 4. I'm going to do it, right? All they can do is say no. And as we've demonstrated, I'm resilient enough to handle that. So all positive on the settlement. I'm still all positive on the settlement. I know that you guys are too. He asked, what's the one thing you would tell an agent to do today to kick butt in 2025? And again, he stayed on theme. He said, agents need to realize they don't need everything. They don't need to go out and spend money on everything. They don't need to have all of the shiny things that we're kind of pressured to have, right? We feel like, well, if I want to do better in business, I need to invest in this. If I want to do better in business, I need to invest in this. I need to have this. You don't need to have everything. You need to go back to the beginning of the conversation and remember that you're going to pick 3 or 4 things that you're really, really good at and really, really comfortable doing, and you're going to do that consistently. Okay? Less is more is what he would want agents to know going into 2025. So that's it. Again, I would encourage you to go watch the pod. I love listening to this guy talk. You're going to chuckle the whole time. He's a really, really sharp guy, and I'm sure that I butchered some of his advice. So it would be best if you got it straight from them. And Keith and James are always fun to listen to too. So questions, comments, anything to say before we click the button and get the hay out of here? No? These people are way too smart. They're like, yeah, we already knew that. Okay, I'm going to click it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See some of you in a little bit.